Good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming out on this cold, rather gray evening. But we're excited to welcome you all for a book launch. It's always exciting to bring an author to the store. My name is Michael. I'm the buyer for the trade nonfiction department, and I just want to take care of a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. First of all, if you need to use the restroom, go down the aisle towards the used book area, and then once you are in the used book area, it will be right on the left there for you. Next, Lori is going to do a book signing after the talk and the Q&A. If you would like to get a copy of her book signed, pick it up. Please go purchase it at the registers, and then have her sign it for you. And without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Jonathan, and we'll play a song, and then we'll get started, okay?
Hey, hi, how are you? I'm Brian Melton, and I know the author. Yeah, as a matter of fact, it was, it sounds too loud as a bear, but good, it's blowing you back, good. It was November 22nd, 40 years ago that Laura and I had our first date. So this is kind of a pretty special event to go, hey, Journey with a Giant, I feel like I have been for the last 40 years. So happy almost 40th first date anniversary. A little round of applause for Lori. Second thing is how many veterans do we have? I know there's at least three. I know three for sure in the family here. So what do we got? Oh, it's Barry. So can you guys stand up? Any veterans that serve, stand up if you would, please. So we got, where's Eric? Eric, stand up. Ross, Crystal. So, we appreciate your service. So thank you. So just a couple things about Lori. I'm here to just give a few things away here about Lori. Ever since I met Lori, Lori has been a writer, not in the sense of a book, but she's been a person who would write in the margins of her Bible. She'd write about the kids, she'd write to the kids, she'd do birthday cards to the kids, she'd write the bills, she'd be talking to me and writing, just like this. So her dream was, to be a writer. It's always been her lifelong dream. Now, as you know, we have 6 kids, and we started right away. Or it was 20 when Drew was born. And so a lot of things, as everyone knows, there's sacrifice in life, there's things you don't do that you like to do, you have to put on the shelf. And so all of that, after all these years, is led to tonight. We're finally, here we are. And so we kind of talked about this was kind of like having a baby, and finally tonight it's like the baby is born. So we're really excited about that. I'm so glad you guys could share and be a part of it. I guess basically, as I just look at, when she talks about Journey with the Giant, the importance of being mentored by those that have gone on before us. There's mentors in life that are living, and then there's ones that have gone on before. I just wanted to say that I feel like you're a giant, a living giant. I'm really thankful for you. She's relentless, she's persevering, she's focused. This has been a 4-year project, and so as many of you know that are close to her, at least this didn't happen overnight. And so I am really proud to be here tonight to see this happen and to introduce to you Lori G. Melton.
I know, hold on. This is so good. First of all, I just want to say thank you to Bakers for hosting us. They've been amazing to work with, and this beautiful space that we have tonight to share. I feel like this is a testimony of what God has done, and so that's what we're going to do tonight. I want to say thank you to my son Jonathan for running all the video. You might have talked to him in interviews, and the photography, and my daughter-in-law Crystal over here, so talented. Everything when you walked in the door that started you on the journey with a giant, it was because of her work and her talent to make that visually come to you guys. So I wanted to say that just starting off here with our night. And Kelsey, yeah, the beautiful flower arrangements, my other daughter-in-law. So you just have to have enough children that eventually anything you dream about doing, they can handle. You know, like everyone gets a job. But anyway, super blessed by that. And I'm just so honored to be here tonight. What a night of celebration this is. And it's not just about this book. I've known that ever since we booked this with Baker Bookhouse, that this is a celebration of our God who continually leads us into new ways of knowing him, and just opens doors for us far beyond anything we could imagine, like Brian was just alluding to. And what a perfect day to launch this book. You know, when the publisher supposedly randomly chose 11/11, and I opened the calendar and looked at it and saw that it was Veterans Day, it was just another divine connection to what this book is, because today, when we celebrate our national heroes, we are also celebrating our spiritual ones in the cloud of witnesses that cheer us on our race. So that just was such a perfect date that they supposedly randomly picked. And when I even imagined standing up here and looking out, and I had imagined who was going to be here, I thought, this is the cloud of witnesses. This is the cloud of witnesses that have walked through this book coming to life, have walked alongside me as in this calling to fulfill it. You are my cloud of witnesses. And this is what the book is about, is the power of our cloud of witnesses. So anyway, we're going to have fun tonight. We're going to talk about the practice of walking with giants. I'm going to read a couple sections from my book. We're going to have a little Q&A time, so have your questions ready. And then before you go, we've got a special gift for you. We have a little bookmark, Journey with a Giant bookmark, and on the back there's a QR code. You can take the Transformational 10 just launched today Spiritual Giant quiz. And when you take this quiz, it will actually send to your email 10 giants from history that could be a fit for you to walk with. So that's hot off the presses just for you guys tonight, launching that. So make sure you get one of those. And as we begin tonight, one of the things we wanted to do was to create a video with the concept of giants, and then interviewing a few people who had walked with giants to just give you a visual of what walking with a giant looks like. So we're going to watch that in a minute.
Jesus doesn't expect us to be Christian all by ourselves. You'll always have a friend to go with you.
The way I would describe walking with a spiritual giant as an opportunity to engage with someone, maybe not in person, and learning about what their relationship with God was like, and how it can teach and instruct us to listen to the Holy Spirit's movement in our own lives.
I actually first heard about this giant practice through Lori, but I had never seen this take on it before.
It struck me as, you know, in many ways, it seems so intuitive. It seems like something, well, of course I'd want to do that.
I think there were at least a couple of reservations that I had going into that first year. Is it okay to look to people instead of the Bible? Because we do it all the time in our everyday faith. We look to our pastors every Sunday to grow in our faith.
People would often say, oh, I don't want to study someone like that. I only want to study Jesus. Well, I am studying Jesus. I'm studying someone who is highly influenced by Jesus and who highly influenced others because of who Jesus was in her life.
There's value in learning from people that are older and that have lived in different eras and different generations and different cultures. People who also love Jesus, also want to be led by the Holy Spirit, but who have come from a very different life experience.
When you go that deeply with somebody, it can't help but impact your own walk.
It's not a study. It's not academic. It's not, can I answer a question about this? It's, how did this person live? And how can that be an invitation to me to live with more depth, with more connection, with more relationship to the people around me?
This practice was different because it's not exactly studying the Bible or studying theology. It's like doing church across the ages.
The ability to bring something ancient to the forefront in today's 2025 world is timeless. I mean, it's spot on for today.
There's a real movement of, you've probably seen, Gen Z are coming back to faith and coming back to spiritual practices. So in hopefully 15 years, 20 years, people are still finding this book and picking it up.
I think it also appeals to people who learn differently, who maybe don't do so well just working through a workbook.
This book could be useful, especially for those where they want to go deeper, where they're no longer satisfied with just being that rock that skips across the surface but never has an opportunity to go deep.
I don't think it's for one people group or one specific set of people. I think everybody can truly learn by journeying with the giant of the faith.
Yeah, don't you love those little animated guys walking the trail? Those are our little pilgrims. They're our mascot. I love them. I love them. So I'm going to share the story with you tonight about how Journey with a Giant came to be. And then I'll even share a little bit about how the publishing happened, because that is a miracle in itself. So I'll never forget the day that this idea was born. It was late December 2020, and I was out in our prayer cabin reflecting on the year and asking the Lord how he would have me grow closer to him in the year ahead. And as I prayed, ideas came to my mind for Bible study and church involvement. And then I paused for a second, and all of a sudden I realized how much I missed having a spiritual giant in my life. I'd learned about the practice of walking with a spiritual giant during my spiritual direction training, and I wanted to do it again. And then right after that impression that I missed having a giant, a thought came to me, and I remembered how people had been watching me walk with giants. This was very unfamiliar in the Christian circles that I was in, and noticing changes in my life, and they were starting to ask me to teach them how to do it. So I had that one thought, I miss having a giant. My next thought was, people are asking me how to do this. And then right after that, I remembered a series of books by an author named Sharon Garlow Brown. It's the Sensible Shoes series. And in her books, she weaves discipleship practices into the story of 4 friends. And when she does that, it disarms us from maybe some practices that are unfamiliar to us, and she invites us to try those practices. And it was such a beautiful thing. I read it and I said to myself, or she wasn't in the room, but I said, Sharon, you have just done something so powerful by helping us to wrap that concept into a story. And I leaned back at that point and I said, Lord, I would love to write something like that someday. So that was my third thought, and then all of a sudden those 3 ideas merged together, and I said to myself, I know, I'm going to choose a giant to walk with this year, and I'm going to write articles about what God does on my journey, which will serve as an illustration to people what walking with a spiritual giant looks like, and it'll guide readers from the first chapter on a giant journey of their own. Bam! Like a calling within how many seconds? I don't even know, maybe a minute? There it was. That was just the start. I thought it was going to be like write it 1 year, publish it the next, done. But it wasn't like that. But how beautiful. So then I had a notebook with me, and I got it out, and I started jotting down names of people I respected in the faith. I remember jotting down C.S. Lewis, Mother Teresa, even Queen Elizabeth, because I had watched The Crown that year. How many people watched The Crown? She was an amazing woman of faith. So anyway, she was on the list. And then all of a sudden, I remembered, after you walk with giants, you start noticing people in your life that you might want to walk with someday. So I started a little note on my phone, and I called it my spiritual giant candidates, that list. And I went, oh yeah, I have that little note on my phone. And so I opened it up, and as I scanned it, there was Mr. Rogers on the list. And I had seen the movie A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood that year, and I was just struck by his faith, his love for people, the slow way he lived, because that was a passion of mine, and I knew I needed help with that, and how well he listened. They were the qualities that I would long to grow in, and in that split moment, I knew it was him, that Mr. Rogers was the giant that God was calling me to walk with that year and to write about as an illustration of this practice. So some of you might be wondering, so what does it mean when you say you're walking with a giant? People will say, like, do you mean like literally walking? What are you doing, you know? And I'm like, no, not walking physically. But walking with the giant is simply sharing a season of your life with a hero of the faith, learning about their story, and watching how, as you learn about their story, God shapes your own. It's the foundation of it comes from Hebrews chapter 12. Since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders us and run with perseverance the race marked out for us. And traditionally, I've always thought, and I know a lot of people in my circle, we've thought of that cloud as people like Ruth, David, Moses. But what many of us haven't seen before is that it also includes millions of faithful followers of Jesus throughout the centuries. So we're not even talking just prophets, but we're talking poets. We're not talking just missionaries, but we're talking mothers and artists, teachers, social workers, people from every century and every occupation are spiritual giants. And every one of them has something they can teach us about our faithfulness to Christ. So at first when I learned this, I was worried when I learned about this practice, I was worried that it would take my eyes off Jesus. I was thinking, the only person I want to fix my eyes on is him. I don't want to spend time studying, other people, that it might distract me from that. But what I discovered from my life and observing the people in my first spiritual direction class and then other groups of people that I've led through the years is that walking with giants didn't draw us away from Jesus, it drew us closer. It drew us closer to him. And that experience, as I was processing all this, before I decided to write the book, just as I was walking with different giants during my training and watching something that I'd never had in my Christian life be so powerful in my life and others, it got me wondering, could this practice be a form of discipleship that God designed for us? He meant it for us all along. We just haven't seen it. Maybe there are people from history that God specifically wants to use in each of our lives to shape us into who he created us to be, like missing puzzle pieces of what he has for us. So before we go any further, I'm gonna read a couple short excerpts from my book to you, and this will give you a glimpse of the type of things that happens on your journey. So the book is divided, the chapters are months, and every month has 4 weekly articles and one what we call pilgrimage principles, and I'll explain that to you in a minute, at the end of that chapter. So as you're using the book and you're walking with your giant, when you get to month 1, week 1, you read that article. And so this is a weekly article about something that happened on my journey with Fred. And we call him by first names after you journey with him for a while. He's not Mr. Rogers anymore. He's not Fred Rogers. He is Fred. So anyway, it's called Humility is Showing Up. Doing the best we can may still fall short of what we would like, but life isn't perfect, and doing what we can with what we have is the most we should expect of ourselves or anyone else. Fred Rogers, The World According to Mr. Rogers. In the 30 years that Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood aired on television, every episode began in the same way. Mr. Rogers would open the door to his home, walk inside, smile, and sing, "It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood. It's a beautiful day to be neighbors. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor?" He would put on his comfy sweater and change into his sneakers, and then after welcoming viewers into his living room, he would show his audience a gadget he had brought with him and explain how it worked. After that, the little trolley would enter the set behind him, and he would take the audience to the neighborhood of make-believe, where the puppets performed skits with actors dressed up in costumes. For some, the show might be a little painful to watch. The trolley jerks along the tracks. The skits are corny. Grown men and women are dressed up like dogs and parrots. Mr. Rogers doesn't come across as cool or charismatic. But in every episode, he was 100% love, no matter how unpolished his delivery. He wasn't worried about his reputation. He didn't refuse to be taped until he became a more impressive speaker. With 5 episodes to write, produce, and act in every week, he had to let the show go out to viewers, whether or not he felt it was the best reflection of himself. According to what was popular at the time, the show wasn't that good. But Mr. Rogers gave what he had. He wrote the programs and then walked on stage, even though he never wanted to be the one on camera. He would have preferred to be behind the scenes, playing the music and orchestrating the puppets. But when the station manager told him they needed him as the star of the show, he rose to the challenge despite not feeling qualified. You may resonate with that experience of imposter syndrome. You might worry that others are better equipped to fulfill your roles. You might wake up several days a week and wonder what you're even doing. Believe me, I know the feeling. As a new spiritual director, I go into most meetings with a breath and a prayer, since I often feel like I don't know what I'm doing. During a recent appointment, I felt led to slowly read a passage of scripture 3 times while the directee sat with her eyes closed. Oh, thank you. Yes. Thank you. While the directee sat with her eyes closed, opening herself to God. My reading wasn't smooth. My instructions weren't the clearest. My pauses between readings were inconsistent. But when I looked up after the final reading, I saw tears streaming down her cheeks. God had met her. The truth is, we are never going to feel completely prepared to do every task or handle every responsibility, but that's okay. The important thing is to be faithfully present, to show up consistently in places where we don't have it all together, and to offer our best as we do the work God has called us to do. Remember, humility is showing up whether we have everything down or not. We must let go of perfectionism and give what we have. God will do the rest. Yeah. I think I've lived that article about every day of my life since I wrote it. And then at the end of every article, I have a journal prompt for the person reading. And this one says, how has your giant encouraged you to show up and do what God has called you to do? So that's an example of a weekly article. And then I'm going to read you one of the pilgrimage principles. And these are really surprising, because you read about spiritual giants and then all of a sudden you get this pilgrimage. Pilgrimage is another spiritual practice, and it came alive to me during my spiritual direction training. And it was gripping to me. And while I was walking with giants, I couldn't shake the thought that walking with a spiritual giant is like sharing a year of my life's pilgrimage from birth to my passing to heaven with a giant of the faith. So as I wrote the chapters, I would write metaphors about the Camino de Santiago, which is a pilgrimage in Spain, but I would apply it to the giant journey. So we have this little imaginary scenario for you. And this is called Look Around for Help. Two are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. Ecclesiastes 4, 9 and 10. You've been on the trail for weeks. Things have been going well. You've been following the map and making turns at all the yellow fletches, which have led you from one town to another. But then you notice that it's been longer than usual since you've seen a yellow arrow or another pilgrim. In fact, you don't see anyone ahead of or behind you. Confused, you pull out your map, but as your anxiety increases, you find it difficult to make sense of all the lines and markings, especially with only an hour of daylight left. You walk down the street only to turn around and walk back, and when you reach the crossroads where you discovered you were off course, you look up and see a middle-aged man walking towards you. Maybe he's used to seeing disoriented pilgrims if he lives this close to the Camino. He asks, "Hello, can I help you?" "I've gotten off course and I can't figure out how to get back," you say. He takes your map and pointing down the road says, "Walk down the road 3 blocks and then turn left. Go 4 blocks more and then you'll see a coffee shop across the street and a bridge." His voice trails off as he notes the growing panic on your face. Offering a friendly smile, he says, "I have time. Would you like me to take you?" Breathing a sigh of relief, you say, "That would be awesome." Sometimes on pilgrimage, even with the best maps or GPS to guide you, our life in Christ is the same. We can know what the Bible says and even memorize long passages from it, but when it comes to living out what Scripture teaches, we may need more than just words on a page. Think about it. No one knew the Torah better than the religious leaders who lived strictly by the text of the law, but often missed the point of it, or the spirit of it. Thankfully, God hasn't sent us on our journey alone. When we get tangled up trying to figure out how to understand what we read in the Bible and how to live according to God's plan, half the journey is putting our heads down to study His Word and pray, but the other half is lifting our heads and looking around for those trusted guides that He has provided to show us how to live well. And the journal question for this: how has your giant shown you a new way to live out your faith in an area where you have been stuck? So that's a little sneak peek from the book for you. You know, this book is only half the story that we're celebrating tonight. After that moment in the cabin, I began writing articles about what God was teaching me through my walk with Fred. And a few months later, friends asked if they could join me walking with giants. And before long, one of them insisted that I go to a writer's conference. So I did. And I went simply to learn. I knew I was a new writer. I just figured I had this idea. I would write it. I would publish it sometime, self-publish it. But every time I shared the idea with people, they would stop me mid-sentence and say something like, "Oh no, you can't self-publish this. I've never heard of this before. It's powerful. You have to pitch this to publishers." Well, the only problem was I didn't even know how to write a book or pitch to a publisher. So when I came home, I knew I needed help, and God provided a writing mentor in Ann Bile, who's right here in the pink back here. That's Ann, and she began coaching me on a monthly basis for a couple of years and eventually became my agent. Through the years, I watched as God kept opening doors, conferences, classes, and contacts that kept just popping up at just the right time until eventually a contract from what I thought was a little Christian publishing house with a really cute name, Ink and Willow. Only later did we realize that it was a division of Penguin Random House, one of the largest 5 publishers in the world. And I think that is the mercy of God that we did not know that, because I would have been so freaked out. I would have been, no, we can't do that. But God knew. He knew. So I signed a contract, January 6, 2024, and I pulled back from pretty much everything else in my life because I knew. Oh. That could be painful. Shocking, as a matter of fact. Anyway, it's funny. Anyway, yes. Yeah. There were many moments when I wondered if this book would ever truly happen.
Me too.
He's paid a high price. And many of you have been through those shaky moments with me. I mean, I remember the first time that the first round of edits came back, and they tell you about this. It's called the developmental edit. And every author will tell you, you're going to just be floored, you're going to cry, you're going to not know. And I was like, I'm sure it'll be fine. You know, when mine came back, 45 of the 60-plus articles needed to be rewritten. And supposedly 6 weeks. That didn't happen. At that point, I called my sister, who's the best athletic coach you've ever seen. She's sitting back there, wave Kelly. And she talked me down off the ledge, and she said, hey, can you list all those changes that you need to make in a spreadsheet, and we're going to turn it into a training plan. And I brought it. This is it. We're gonna have to frame this. And every day I would call her. She'd say, check in with me. We'd see if I met the goal that day. We'd make a new plan, all that. She never got tired of it. And then I remember, Brian, like he just said back there, has been through so much, walked all this out with me, all the years, all the agony. And on vacation last year in 2024, I took the manuscript with me because I was on this deadline to rewrite. And I was laying in bed in the morning, and I was just in anguish. I was crying and saying, I don't know. I seriously don't know if I can do this. And he is my live-in DJ, I call him that, because he thinks of music and lyrics for every scenario you could ever imagine. Like, you will be playing cards at our house, and he'll have his little phone, and he'll be pulling up songs, to go with what we're... Anyway, he pulled out his phone as we're laying there, and he, one song after another, played me songs of God's faithfulness, and that he was going to get me through. And it was exactly what I needed, and I was like, you need to put that on a playlist for me right now. So that's what we did. And the book was supposed to be done in the summer. It was December when we got it done. Multiple rounds of edits. And if I had the paper here, I mean, seriously, Brian kept saying, how many reams of paper are you going to go through? I'm like, it's not done. It's not done yet. And here we are tonight. Because God was in it. My story is a 1 in a million. That a first-time author with no experience, no platform, would sign a contract with one of the big 5 publishers, a homeschool mom 10 years ago. And I believe the reason is because this practice is a gift that God wants to bring to the world, because he's heard our cry to grow closer to him and to fulfill our purpose. And I love sharing this story with you tonight for 2 reasons. First, because no matter how long we walk with God, and I had been walking passionately with God for over 30 years, he always has new ways for us to draw closer and get to know him. He always does. And second, because he never forgets the gifts that he's planted within us. Like Brian said in the beginning, I didn't know he was going to share that. It was my first year of college when I discovered my love and gift for writing. And I happily put it on the shelf while we raised our family and did amazing, wonderful things. I didn't know if it would ever come down again. But over 30 years later, he pulled it off the shelf. And when he did, it was beyond, like he does in all of our lives. When he pulls those things off the shelf, they're greater than anything that we could ask for or imagine. Isn't that so good? That's what I'm celebrating tonight. I'm celebrating Journey with the Giant for sure. I think it's just a dream come true. Praise him. So anyway, after all that, that's the story portion. And now I wanted to open up this time for a few Q&A, a few questions and answers, things you might have about the book or the writing process, choosing a giant. And hey, I've got a special treat for you tonight. Anybody who has listened to our podcast, you might recognize this voice of my co-host, my friend in this journey, and he's been my book launch partner. God provided him. I don't know why he is so generous with his time, but God put it on his heart. So Robert Prince, introduce yourself, Robert.
Hello, Robert Prince. Nice to be here. So happy to be here with Lori. Like Brian, had his first date with Lori in November, 40 years ago. My first friend date with Lori was 3 years ago in November 5th, 2022, the day we met. So we're going to take a few questions. If you have a few questions, if you just want to raise your hand. Yeah.
Hello. So I'm wondering how big a part writers' conferences played in the development of the idea and the encouragement to keep going. I mean, how important was that?
Writers' conferences are everything. They really are. The contacts you make at writers' conferences, and just to see that you can do it, to see like all these writers around you, just like you, and the classes that come out of it, the opportunities, the connections. I just had someone ask me, someone approached me saying they wanted to write a book or they had a book half done, didn't know how to get it done. I said, go to a writer's conference. Go. It will propel you where you want to go. So it's everything. The best money you ever spent. That's where I met Anne. Well, that's where I saw Anne for the first time. And then a friend told me I needed to contact her, and I was like, the lady up in front? But she was so gracious.
Another question.
So what surprised you the most in your journey with Fred Rogers? Was it something that you expect, the big lessons you learned from him, or was there some things that really took you off guard, were surprising? They were like, wow, I never thought I would have got that from his life.
Yeah. Two things. His spiritual mentor was Henry Nouwen. Henry Nouwen was alive at the same time as Fred Rogers, and they had met and they were friends, and Henry Nouwen would call Fred regularly and tend to Fred's spirit and soul. And so when I studied Fred Rogers, when I walked with Fred Rogers, when I got to the middle of the year, we multiply our journey, and we actually look around for the spiritual giants of our spiritual giant. And I was so excited about that because I knew about Henry Nouwen and I wanted to learn more about him. So I spent 2 or 3 months of my journey walking with Fred and Henry and learning. And Henry's life affected me deeply. The second thing is Fred Rogers was so unafraid of diversity, meaning cultural diversity and theological diversity. And I saw in myself as I was going through that year in different scenarios, God was opening doors for me to be in other circles of denominations, beliefs, cultures, and it didn't have to be scary anymore. It doesn't have to be scary or threatening. It can be welcoming and curious, and we are so much better for it. So there's a lot of articles in the book about that stretching and how amazing it felt as a person and how much better of a person I believe God made me through opening in that way. And it'll be with me forever. Fred wasn't afraid. He was curious and he was full of wonder. And he didn't feel like everybody had to be like him, which is another thing I learned from spiritual direction training, big time. Yes.
Hi, Lori. I was wondering, now that I have my book, and I have prayed about, and I really feel like I'm going to walk with Corey ten Boom, but I feel like I have to get all the information and just everything before I even crack open the book. Do I do that, or do you just trust the process as you're reading the book?
I'm so much like you. I think you can do it either way. If you are the type of person who likes a lot of resources and collect them all, and then you just start with whichever one you're most drawn to. You just start with that one. You may never get to the other ones. Sometimes we fight our natural tendencies. Like I would be like, oh, just pick one. Why can't you just pick one? You're so, why do you have to have 10? It's like, I don't know why I have to have 10, but I'm beautifully and wonderfully made, so I'm going to get all 10. So yeah, I would say if that's your natural tendency that you can notice in yourself when you're starting to get bound up by, oh no, I don't have to know all that right now. I'm just beginning the journey and God will take me where I need to go. But also don't box yourself in and be like, bad Linda, you have to have that many books. No, you're beautifully and wonderfully made. Do it exactly the way you feel led to do it. No matter if your neighbor's studying Brother Lawrence and has one book for the whole year. Yeah.
How different was the actual Camino versus the Camino you wrote about?
John went on the Camino with us. That was funny, you guys. So I wrote this book before I ever went on the Camino, and I wrote Camino analogies all through the book. So we were done with all the rounds of editing, and my publisher, who you get to know really well, it's super fun. And when all that was done, she goes, "Oh yeah, you've been on the Camino, right?" And I said, "No, I never have." And she said, "How did you? Oh my gosh." And so I said, well, we might have to pull the whole thing when I get back from the Camino. It's totally wrong what I wrote. Actually, it's pretty accurate. It's pretty accurate. The pilgrimage principles in the book that I wrote about, I did so much research on the Camino that they did ring true for the most part, although I'm very idealistic. And so our Camino was not, would you say it was idealistic? I'm going to go again, hoping that it will be. No, it was great. It was great. So anyway, well, we probably should, yeah. Okay, one more. Oh, Brian? Yeah, we'll give you a couple minutes.
Lori, I have a question.
Lori G?
So talk just, to everyone here a little bit about what you learned when you think of Journey with a Giant. You think of somebody that you're maybe putting on a pedestal. Mm-hmm. How good it is for everyone to see if that giant was human.
Oh, I love that. Mm-hmm. One of the best things you can discover about your giant is their weaknesses. Because that speaks to us that you don't have to be perfect to have an amazing life and do wonderful things for others and for God. So I remember reading about Henry Nouwen's, he struggled a lot with workaholism. And he got sent on a sabbatical for a certain number of months, and he was away at a monastery somewhere, and he was supposed to be resting and not working. And he snuck into the office in the wee hours of the night so he could work and print things off. And I saw myself in that. Well, he eventually died of a heart attack. And some of the closest people to him were upset about that and said he could have done this to himself. Why did this weakness take him out, But when I read it, I wasn't happy that he died from a heart attack, but I was comforted that he struggled and we all struggle. I used to have a theology that said, if I'm close enough to Jesus, be ye perfect as I am perfect. We're going to work out all these things about ourselves. Not true. And that's comforting. And then we are more compassionate to ourselves and others. It makes us more compassionate to ourselves and others by seeing their weaknesses. So it's a wonderful part of the journey to see that. And we don't have to pick, like some people will look at a giant and say, oh, I don't agree with them on this point or that point, so I can't choose them. No. You take the parts that apply to you and you let them have their stand in the other parts. So, so that doesn't have to be a barrier. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, honey. Great question. Good job. So anyway, well, thank you. Thanks, guys, for your questions. Those were awesome. I love to be able to answer questions. So before we close, I want to read to you from another incredible section from the book. Great writing. And that's my acknowledgments page. I wish I could have everybody in this room on that acknowledgments page, but anyway. They say it takes a village to raise a child. To create this book, it definitely took a neighborhood. Like with most other things worth doing, I had no idea how much effort it would take to pull off this I'm going to write a book thing when I first said it. As I come to the end now and look back at all who've been a part of it, I'm overwhelmed. Fred's mother, Nancy, was known to encourage him whenever he was overwhelmed to look for the helpers. You will always find people who are helping. Those words ring true as I think about this book and all the helpers who've been there along the way. At every crossroads that seemed impossible, I would look around and see a helper waving me over with exactly what the book needed. First, Sister Diane, Sister Carm, and the rest of the staff at the Dominican Center who introduced me to this practice. My Abba sisters, Linda, my spiritual mentor, who first encouraged me to write and put wind in my sails along the way, and Julie, Sherry, and Donna, whose friendship and prayers carried me through. The Breathe Writers Conference, Hope Writers, the Profitable Writer community, and my church blog team. Cynthia Beach, who told me I had to come to Scriptoria when I hadn't even taken a college composition class, and my workshop group for their invaluable critique. The 3 Journey with a Giant beta groups and our first leaders, Robert, Sherry, and Julie, for their invaluable feedback, and the amazing prayer team as well. To Leslie Calhoun and the incredible team at Waterbrook who made the book into what it is and brought this powerful practice to the world, your partnership has been a dream come true. To Ann Bile, who believed in the power of this idea from our first conversation, coached this newbie writer through every step, and then brought it to the marketplace as my agent. To my mom, my lifelong cheerleader whose love, support, and prayers mean everything. My twin sister at the back of the room, Kelly, for her invaluable coaching and patience as I monopolized our phone conversations. And to my mother-in-law who answered my regular SOSs and helped me keep my house clean and this big family going. To my kids, Drew, Kelsey, Eric, Jeff, Crystal, Jonathan, Victoria, Ross William, and Autumn, for their priceless cheers from the sidelines. Go, Mom, you can do it, when I didn't know if I could. My Brian, who must be so tired of hearing about Fred, Giants, Zoom meetings, and conferences, and who has been my patron, coach, and counselor 24/7 for way longer than either one of us thought this would take. His belief in me and his support have been my greatest treasure. If there's an award for best neighbor, he definitely gets it. And finally, to God, the greatest helper of all, behind the eyes of all the others whose love and faithfulness make all of our neighborhoods the wonderful places they're meant to be. Journey with a Giant is more than my story. It's all of ours. Because the same God who called Abraham to step out, Ruth to stay faithful, and Mr. Rogers to love deeply, is still calling each of us to walk with him and the cloud of witnesses that he's provided. So I just want to thank each of you again for being a part of this journey. Thank you, friends. We're going to enjoy a time of cake and festivities now. Light stuff. Yay! Thank you for coming. Thank you so much.